Can Intactivism really overthrow the circumcision machine? Well, this is quite hotly debated. Some say if the anti-circumcision movement can learn more facts, if they just get a viral video or reach a tipping point, well, maybe I'm much more jaded. But what I think is that it all comes down to is money.
We've got to have money.
Hardcore cash. Who needs facts when you have money? So how does Intactivism stack up to the circumcision machine when it comes to their bottom line? Let's find out. I went to the Guide to Giving, Intactivist.org, and I went through the entire list here. I made a whole chart about this, but first let me tell you how I did this. Bloodstained Men, I went to ProPublica, which is really the main I've done for all of this is ProPublica. Bloodstained Men, I added up all these years of revenue. I didn't even touch the expenses. I just added up the revenue. And I went down the line. This is Forgin. Added up all their revenue. I did it for all of the years. This is Intact America. Added up all their revenue, which is pretty impressive actually over the years. They typically make $1 million at least every single year. Actually, no year has been less than $1 million, which is really impressive. Your Whole Baby, they only had one revenue year that they gave ProPublica, and it was $23,000. Now, there's a bunch of Intactivist groups, like Colorado ABC, for instance, that if you make under $50,000, you don't have to report anything. And that's the case for Colorado ABC, Doctors Opposing Circumcision. They had nothing. Intaction, they had nothing. No Circ Michigan. Actually, No Circ Michigan did show that they had about $3,000 in revenue in 2019. But anyways, what I did was in the table that I made, I put the Intactivist group, the years that it was covered, the amount of years, all the money they made throughout the years. And then what I did was, if you see the 11 groups times $50,000, since they didn't make $50K because they didn't report it, I just said, I'm going to pretend like 11 groups made $25,000 for 2 years. And granted, I get that. That is a lot of hopium that Intactivists made $550,000 in 22 company years. So the years are in company years. They're not like full-blown years because you have to average them out somehow because the year range is all over the place. If you look at the total company years is 53, and the amount of money is $35 million and a quarter, which on the face of it might look really good, right? But however, let's compare this to the circumcision machine, shall we? This is Circumcision Resource Center. This is Medicaid funding for circumcision. If you go in here, this is where I got this number. It says the total annual cost of Medicaid circumcisions is a few $1,000,000 per state. Now, I went ahead and I looked up how many states still do Medicaid-funded circumcision, and you will find that 34 states have Medicare covering circumcisions. So it's about $2 million per state. So if you go ahead and add that up, that's $68 million a year for state-sponsored circumcision. This is an ingenious advertising for circumcising babies and children. This gives doctors major kickbacks for doing it. Circumcisions don't cost anything for the parents. It's like a free gift basket. Like, oh, you had a son. Would you like to have a free circumcision with it? The state's covering it for you. You're eligible for a free circumcision. And they can package it up, make it look all great and fantastic. Doctors are going to package it up like it's the best thing since sliced bread because it makes a lot of money. And I don't know if you noticed this, that this is in 1 year. This is not like Intactivism taking a whole decade. This is every year. The circumcision machine doubles what Intactivism can make in 53 company years through your tax dollars. every single year. That's crazy. Now, I wish it ended there, but America is pushing way more money to other countries to incentivize them to take up circumcision. So if we go to the United States President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, which we all know includes circumcision, the Bureau of Global Health Security and Diplomacy leads, manages, and oversees the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, PEPFAR. Through PEPFAR, the United States government has invested over $110 billion in global HIV/AIDS response, the largest commitment by any nation to address a single disease in history. Okay, guys, so let's be super hopiumistic. Let's say that only $5 billion of this $110 billion is going towards circumcising boys. Let's just pretend only 5. That's really not that much. That is less than 5% of their total packaging going towards actual circumcising. But if we just take that $5 billion spent on circumcision, which once again is probably a lot more, the pro-cutters have 14,184% more money, liquidity, equity, ammunition than Intactivists does, just based off of that. And just to give you one more thing, and then I'm done. I'm not trying to beat a dead horse or whatever. Bill Gates also gave $50 million to circumcise up to 650,000 men in Swaziland and Zambia. Point being, though, is that this is a lot of money. I'm not going to continue giving you more and more money that people are pushing for circumcising. I think you guys get my point that it is a lot of money that these pro-cutters are funding circumcision. And I think it's almost juvenile that a lot of Intactivists think, oh, we just need a viral video. Get a viral video or make a good meme and people are going to stop cutting. Have you heard the excuses of people that are circumcising? It's laughable. Like, let's go ahead and check out the circumcising in Africa and how well that's going. Okay, so this is case studies of enhancing uptake of voluntary medical male circumcision services, or the VMMC. So this is case study making the cut MTC. These are the challenges. Despite the effectiveness of medical male circumcision, VMMC uptake remained low in the communities of the 14 priority countries identified by WHO and UNAIDS. This was when making the cut was created. An increase in demand and uptake of VMMC services remains critical to obtaining the 2020 fast track target of 90%. They want 90% people to be circumcised. If you go down here, this is the initiatives that they're taking. They're doing 60 minutes to 90-minute sessions designed to generate demand for VMMC and condom use, link adolescent boys and young men to services. They're playing interactive games, which involves soccer, and do an educational soccer penalty shootout. The goalkeeper metaphorically tries to protect himself from HIV infection. And essentially, when you're uncircumcised who doesn't use condoms, frequently failing to stop the ball, like, that's what they do. And then the next round, after the participants identify that VMMC can reduce the goalkeeper's risk of HIV, the goal's width is then reduced. Fewer goals are scored, representing the partial protection of VMMC. In the final round, 4 additional defenders help block the goal, representing the dual protection of circumcising VMMC and consistent condom use, and very few goals are scored, if any. So they're making this like a fun game for kids to get them to go get circumcised, and they're putting circumcision and condom together. So they're really pushing circumcisions here, guys, and they got the money to do it. Billions of dollars. Let's see how it's going for the Africans. Africans speak out against the mass circumcision campaign. It says, local investigators conduct interviews with 90 affected men and women and find out Africans are told circumcision conveys immunity from HIV, condom use is at an all-time low, and AIDS is on the rise. That program is killing the very people it's supposed to help. No follow-up post-circumcision, cut and release approach, resentment and outrage among Africans. This is just one right here. We got Africans speak out against the mass circumcision campaign. This is blacknews.com. And we got the Africans resist to the mass male circumcision campaign. Oh my goodness, it's almost like this was never about the Africans or HIV. It's almost like this was all about the money. Even Sherry, an ex-nurse, said that the melanin in the foreskin is a gold mine for doctors. So I'll play that clip. You guys can listen to it.
So it's how much skin is how much it's worth. So that's the reason why in African American skin, even more expensive because of the melanin aspect of it. Melanin itself is separated from the fibroblast and used for other things in medical research. So there is a financial incentive to remove the infant's foreskin, and that is the only reason why the hospital really forces this medical procedure, which is an elective procedure. And once again, no reason why a newborn child should be forced to go through an elective procedure just so that the hospital can profit from it.
What kind of crazy things are people saying about circumcisions and the effect of circumcising? All right, so we go here. The effect of circumcision on the young adult sexual function. So if you go all the way down here, it says conclusion. The effects of adult circumcision is important for your urologists to explain at the outpatient service. In this study, we compared the sexual satisfaction of young adult males in Taiwan who had sexual activities in uncircumcised and circumcised states. We found that sexual performance after adult circumcision seems to be improved among the patients, especially in sexual drive and confidence of erection. This study has provided urologists with information that can be useful in advising prospective patients. However, the sexual function effects of circumcision are still unclear. Therefore, a further study is required to understand the in-depth relationship between circumcision and sexual function. Isn't that crazy? All that money spent doing this study, and it's just unclear if circumcising has an effect on sexual function. Isn't that wild? Because they didn't do an in-depth relationship. They didn't really understand it, but they got just enough to be like, well, who knows? We don't know, but we're going to put billions of dollars into this of circumcising the whole world. Here we go. This is from the BJU. It says male circumcision decreases penile sensitivity as measured in a large cohort. Now this here says that the analysis samples consisted of 1,059 uncircumcised and 310 circumcised men. For the glands, penis, circumcised men reported decreased sexual pleasure and lower orgasm intensity. They also stated more effort was required to achieve orgasm, and a higher percentage of them experienced unusual sensations, burning, prickling, itching, or tingling, and numbness of the glands. For penile shaft, a higher percentage of circumcised men described discomfort and pain, numbness, and unusual sensation in comparison to men circumcised before puberty. Men circumcised during adolescence or later indicated less sexual pleasure at the glands, penis, and a higher percentage of them reported discomfort or pain and unusual sensation at the penile shaft. Crazy. Conclusion. This study confirms the importance of the foreskin for penile sensitivity, overall sexual satisfaction, and penile functioning. So look at that. There's no need for extra study here. This is pretty important. It says right here, before circumcision, without medical indication, adult men and parents considering circumcision of their sons should be informed of the importance of the foreskin in male sexuality. Well, that just makes too much sense. Psychology Today, this guy said, does circumcision reduce men's sexual sensitivity? It says the best evidence shows that circumcision doesn't impair men's sexual function. This was made 2 years after this. Now, this is what happens when you have lots of money, guys. When you have lots of money, you can just make up a bunch of crazy crap. It's wild. read some of this stuff here. This comes from Michael. He has a master's degree. He says, opponents misunderstand the body and lovemaking. Circumcision opponents are adamant that the procedure must compromise men's sexuality. How could it not? The foreskin is rich in touch-sensitive nerves. Remove the foreskin and you rob men of the nerves that provide sexual pleasure. All right, so he already admitted that, okay, hey, foreskin has a bunch of touch-sensitive nerves. You're removing it, so it's less sensitive. But he says this argument is mistaken on 2 counts. The body is redundant. We can get along fine on less than half of 1 kidney, but we have 2. 1 lung suffices, but we have 2. Evolution has equipped us with more capacity than we actually need. Evidently, this is also true of the penis. Okay, guys, so, if you chop off this guy's foot, he should be fine. He has 2 feet. He should be happy. Oh, also with 1 lung. Funny he says that because right here, this is from IFL Science. It says, you'd be forgiven for thinking that the lungs might work like kidneys. You have 2. So maybe losing 1 wouldn't be so bad. It's true that you can live without a lung. And there are a lot of famous examples of people who have. But while 1 kidney can really be said to do the job of 2, people who have a whole lung removed might expect to regain 70% of their previous lung function. Not too bad, and sometimes there's no other options available. But it still could mean that you're not able to exercise as strenuously as you could before, and that you genuinely need to take things a little slower. Okay, so I don't understand this dude's point here. He's like, well, you're still alive, dude. You're alive. So we could just cut this guy's eye out. He has 2 eyes. He can still see. It still does good enough, Oh, and this gets even better. Consider how it feels to pet a cat with 5 fingers. You feel the soft luxuriousness of the fur. You feel the cat's purr. Now imagine that you lose 1 finger. After you're all healed, you pet the cat with 4 fingers. You have 20% fewer touch-sensitive nerves in that hand. But does petting feel any different? The same goes for penile sensitivity. Men don't need foreskin to enjoy ecstatic lovemaking. Wow, guys. You don't need all your fingers? Come on. Think about petting a cat. I mean, who cares about your other functions of your fingers or foreskins? Like the fact that you don't need lubrication if you have your foreskin. You have protection, and it provides so much more things. This is so stupid. Literally rub your pant leg with your 4 fingers and then lift your pinky up and pet it again. Does it not feel different? Does it not feel a lot? I don't know. I think it feels different. But either way, this is just stupid. Also right here, this is for New York Times. Get along without a pinky. It's tougher than you might think. So it is harder to get along without a pinky. It says you'll lose about 50% of your hand strength easily. So that guy's also stupid. Like, oh, you're still living, dude. Why are you upset? I don't get it. That's kind of like what he's saying here. And then this gets even crazier because he says this. The foreskin represents only a small part of the penis and only a tiny fraction of men's total eroticable, excitable skin surface. Imagine a large cake covered with icing. Does that cake taste any different if someone's finger scoops off a bit of icing? Circumcision opponents overemphasize the importance of the penis in lovemaking. You idiots! Why are you overemphasizing the importance of the penis in lovemaking? You guys are dumb. Oh, and the foreskin. You don't need a foreskin. Why? Guys, this is so embarrassing. But this is okay, guys, because this gets by because, bro, they got billions of dollars. This is billions of dollars talking. They don't need your logic, bro. Screw your logic. It's like icing, dude. It's like scooping a little bit of icing out. That's it. Even though your foreskin has your rigid band, your frenulum, your inner mucosal tissue, like 80% of the mobile skin, it's whatever. It's just like a little bit of icing on the cake, That's all what that is. Yeah, so literally this is what people are combating. So point being is we just have no idea. We have no idea if foreskin's important or not because it's almost like this article Coca-Cola funds scientists who shift blame for obesity away from bad diets. See, guys, you gotta pay attention who's funding these research things for circumcision and foreskins. Because if it's the big circumcision machine funding it, well, then of course they're gonna try and influence and be like, oh, foreskin, you don't need that. Once again, Coca-Cola influences China's obesity policy, BMJ report says. And dude, Coca-Cola has lots of money. They have lots of money to do this. We know that the circumcision machine has a crap ton of money. So they got a lot more for studies and stuff than Intactivists do, that's for sure. Like, they have 200 times the amount, bare minimum, of what Intactivists have, honestly. So they can go ahead and make the statistics and studies say whatever they need to. They can go ahead and be like, oh, you don't need all your body parts. Oh, why are you upset? It's a full body experience. If you want a call to action, is that, look, Intactivists, you guys can make lots of money. It's quite possible. Like right here, I made an article saying Intactivist companies sleep on $500,000 a year. Literally just going through my e-commerce program. That's all what it would take. It's super easy. Intactivists have the chance to take advantage of the number 1 and number 2 e-commerce site in the world to back Intactivism. Go join my Discord to figure out how to do that. Look, guys, the lack of funding is everywhere for Intactivism. Intactivists are losing both bills in New Hampshire. The unfunded projects that we have. It's a lot. So if you want a rally call, well, then this is it. The circumcision machine wants to display a show of brute force and power. So let's display one last show of courage before Intactivism fizzles out. Alright guys, that's all what I have. Thank you for listening. Bye!